So we had a house fire, and I'll talk about that. The whole video is going to lead up to it, actually. As you can see, everything is just dry around here. This is the driest it's been since we've moved here. Last year it got a little bit dry, but it was later in the summer. It was July, August time frame before it got this dry. Here we are still in June, and we've had very little rain. This stuff lights up just with the smallest little flame. Carolyn was burning some trash the other day, and she had a box in there in the barrel, and the box fell out. So as she was trying to get the shovel to put it out, it had taken up a good portion of the area. She got it out, no problem, but can't even tell now. I can't even, oh yeah, in the center here. The shovel is just right across. We always keep the shovel right here, just in case that happens. And we always keep a bucket of water right over there. That's for the chickens and for any fires that may start up. And then we have a bucket of water always up there by the well, all times. And we have a bucket of water inside the tiny house. We use that for our toilet, but it can be used for fires too. And so we rehearse all this. We have 2 fire extinguishers, and I want to get a third one. We got one in the house, in the tiny house. We got one in the camper that used to be in the truck, but we put it in the camper when Carolyn's son moved into there. I want to get another one for the truck again. That way there's a fire, no matter where we're at, we can just grab the fire extinguisher. I've had a lot of fire training done in my life, so I'm not overly fearful of fire. When I was a kid, take it for what it's worth, back in the 80s when they still let kids do things, I was on the volunteer fire department. I was a junior volunteer fireman. Now, regulations started to change while I was in the fire department, but it started out that we could actually put out fires. And we put out a lot of grass fires. The junior firefighters did. Of course, we get in a little Jeep and we drive down to where the grass fire was. And we helped out with accidents a lot, but we were never allowed in a house fire. As a matter of fact, there was a sporting goods store that caught fire while we were in school. And normally, if it was a grass fire or anything like that, they would take us out of school to go do whatever it is we needed to do. Or even an accident, we were allowed to get out. And we were actually given credit for that. There was like 6 of us that was on the junior fire department, and we were always training. Every Wednesday we'd have to go and train. We'd put on the water packs and run up and down the hill. When that sports center, the sporting goods store, caught fire, they didn't take us out of class that day. It would have been too unsafe for us, I guess. But more and more regulations started taking place. Insurance companies were getting involved. One time they were taking the fire truck in for maintenance. So one of the guys, one of the adults, was driving the fire truck to the maintenance place, and his wife slid into the back of the fire truck. Well, the insurance company came in and said the junior firefighters are no longer to ride on the back of the fire truck. And so it just became more and more complicated. And I can't even remember how I got out of the fire department. I don't remember, but somehow or another I didn't go to it anymore. And then in the Navy, I had lots of fire training. I mean, just tons of fire training. All the time we were in fire simulations. I think it was 2008. A mouse had chewed through the wiring. What it was is it was a closet. Inside the closet was the breaker box. So we had a closet within a closet is basically what we had, because behind the breaker box there was all the wires. And well, a mouse got in there right into the attic area and chewed that wire. Now, it was a 100-year-old home, and I'd done a lot of remodeling. So I put insulation on the walls. I had insulation in the ceiling. So when he got into it, it didn't just burst into flames. It shut off the electric, and it caused a lot of smoke. Well, when I got in there, when it was 2 a.m., there was fire on the wall, and there was a water plumbing leak. So water was shooting out. So I took a dog bowl, because there was no water in the house to get water, and I threw it on the fire. Now, the first thing people always say when I say that is, that was an electrical box, you could have been electrocuted. Well, no, you can't be electrocuted, because water was not in my hands. I threw the water. The water was in the air, it splashed. Secondly, there was no electric. The breaker had tripped. So the 100 amp breaker had already tripped. But I understand what you're saying is it could have been a charge somewhere in there, but I was totally safe. And not only that, I didn't get electrocuted, so there's that too. My ex-wife, my wife at the time, just kept asking, you want me to call the fire department? You want to call the fire department? You want to call the fire department? And my answer was no, I don't want you to call the fire department. And when I say this, fire department people, the firemen, always get irate. But the fire department would have tore up the house. They would have drug their hoses in, they would have knocked down all of the ceiling, they would have probably punched a hole in the roof. And that's just procedure. That's what they're supposed to do. Their dirty boots would have been all over the carpet, water would have been all over the place. But when I put it out, I just went into the closet area and I sprayed out what was smoking. I had my wife at the time go outside, make sure there was no fire outside, coming from through the roof or anything, and everything looked fine. I stayed up the rest of the night to make sure everything was fine. I checked it regularly, but I didn't have to destroy the entire house, and it cost $800 to get everything fixed. And I did the repairs. I was able to redo all the wiring that had burned up. I was able to re-insulate it, fix the ceiling, and so $800. And I didn't have to do an insurance claim, so nobody knew about it. My insurance rates didn't go up. But if a fire department would have came in, it would have been thousands of dollars of damage. And insurance would have gotten involved. They'd have hired their own experts to come in and clean it. I know firemen will say they don't do a lot of damage, but they would do more damage than what I did. Now, since I have moved here, I've tried to stay inconspicuous to the townspeople. So I built a tiny house, and I didn't have to build it to code or anything. I don't have to have any permits. And that was all by design. I built it small enough I didn't have to have these codes. And of course I have a wood stove in there. Now, many municipalities won't let you have a wood stove. Oh, they can't do that. Well, yeah, they can, and they do. What they'll tell you is the fire department will not put out your house fire if your house catches on fire. Oh. And what they'll do is they'll come out and they'll make sure nobody else's houses catch on fire, but they won't put yours out. Either your house catch on fire, they don't come out and put it out, and the insurance company will be like, well, why didn't they put out the fire? Well, I had a wood stove. Well, we're not gonna pay for your damages. You knew not to have a wood stove. Or the insurance company will say you can't have a wood stove. But here I can have a wood stove. There's a fire here, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do. So in a previous video I made last fall, so almost a year ago, I talked about this extensively. And what I said in the video, and this is important, is if there's a fire here, I will put it out myself. And I just explained to you all the initial reactions I can take. Got the water bucket, got shovels. I can come out, start up the generator real quick, get water going on through the hose. I have the IBC tank. So Carolyn could literally be putting out water with the IBC tank hose. I'm out there trying to get the water out. I got the fire extinguishers. If I'm outside, I can grab the fire extinguisher from outside and run in the house, put it out. Well, I have gotten a ton of heat about that video. You live in a forest area, and if you have a fire, it is your obligation to call the fire department. Because I said I wasn't going to call the fire department in that video. Otherwise, other people could suffer from your ignorance. Well, that's just it. I'm not ignorant. Duh. Yeah, if the forest catches on fire, I didn't say I was going to put out a forest fire. I said I was going to put out my house fire. If I think the house fire is too big for me to actually contain, of course I'm going to call the fire department. I said that in the video. But usually, all the fires that I've ever witnessed start out small. There's a flame, there's a spark, something happens. I mean, like Carolyn, it grew pretty quick, but she gave her enough time to go get that shovel and put it out herself. If it starts to get out of hand within, 2 or 3 minutes, then of course, yeah, you're gonna call the fire department. But the key is to be on top of it before it actually happens. If I'm not home and somebody sees it and it catches on fire, I'm sure somebody else will call the fire department. I was in a national forest in a pop-up camper, and I've told you this before, somebody burned down our camper in a national forest. with pine needles. It was in Florida. And I just knew when I pulled up that the forest was going to be on fire, because I mean, you could see smoke coming up, and I just knew it was us. So we came around, and no, it was just the camper. That was all that had caught on fire. There was some charredness on the tree, but that was it. Nothing else caught on fire. So it's not like it's just going to erupt into flames and the whole forest is going to catch on fire. You have to use your brains, and people seem to forget this. I watched a video of this woman in her kitchen. They had one of these hoverboard things, and apparently these hoverboard batteries catch on fire really easy. And so she picked up this hoverboard that was on fire and she threw it into the hallway. And so now the wall's catching on fire and she's screaming, help, help, help. Well, the husband comes down and puts it out with a fire extinguisher. Oh, that is pretty smart. What happens is people start to panic. They don't stop and breathe and think, what am I gonna do? They let it get too big before they actually take any action. You gotta be on top of it right now. I had a boss, and they were cooking barbecue. They were inside eating their barbecue, and the propane tank on their barbecue pit caught on fire. Something, you know, the hose was leaking or something. Something happened anyway, caught on fire. And he's frozen. He even admit, I just froze. I didn't know what to do. So his entire porch caught on fire. The fire department didn't put it out. A neighbor ran over with their fire extinguisher and put it out while he stood in his dining room watching this. He didn't do a thing. It's fear. They panic and they freeze. And I think that's what I'm getting so much criticism in the comment section is I don't think people actually realize you can do things on your own. You don't need experts. What you have to do though is you have to be prepared mentally. I watch his self-defense channel, and that's what he talks about quite a bit when he's talking about police action. That when you're rolling up on the scene, you need to be rehearsing in your head what you might think will transpire. And what actions you're going to take if this happens, what actions. And so police officers, I would imagine, have to think about this quite a bit. I'm going to pull up into this gas station and there's going to be this bad guy inside there. So they're always thinking about this stuff. But normal people never have to think about this stuff. I got a gun, that's all I need. But they never go through their minds of different scenarios. If you're in Walmart and you hear gunshots, are you going to run to the gunshots? No, of course not. You're going to find the rear exit. I don't care if you got a gun or not. The smartest thing to do is find a rear exit and leave. That's how you stay alive. So if you have a fire, you need to think about, what are you going to do? If I'm here, if I'm outside, if I'm inside, if it's wintertime, if the pipes are frozen, if the wood stove chimney catches on fire, you got to think about all the different scenarios and how you're going to react to them. I know that there's one YouTuber in the wintertime who attaches the ladder to the side of his house. That way, if there's a chimney fire, everything stays. He's got his hose laid out. He's up there on the ladder with a hose in just a matter of seconds. Now, here, we can't do that because the hose would freeze. So I have to think ahead about buckets of water. So we always stage buckets of water inside, even in the little tiny house. And then we got the propane Mr. Heater portable buddy. We think about that a lot. And if it catches something on fire. The one problem we have is we know that camper, if it goes up in flames, will go up in a big hurry. So we have to be on top of that quickly because there's just no way we could get a handle if it got too big. The tiny house, I think we would be okay. Of course, we're always in there. Like I said, if we're not home, somebody will call the fire department. But since we're always home, like yesterday, for example, Carolyn was cooking up some chicken food. We make homemade chicken food. And so she was cooking it up and she fell asleep. Just a little cat nap, laying on the bed. And I smelled something. And I didn't think, I wonder what that is, and then go back to doing what I was doing. I instantly jumped up and started investigating, trying to figure out where it was coming from. And I'm sniffing all around, and I walk outside, and there it is, just smoking away. You gotta be able to react to situations. And a lot of people just don't react. They are given tons of clues that they're in trouble, but they're not situationally aware of what's going on around them. I wonder what that smell is. You know, Carolyn started the trash a few weeks back. I didn't know she was doing it. She usually tells me, and I smelled it, and I immediately ran outside because I thought the smell of it smelled like forest fire burn. Not only do you got to call the fire department for that, you immediately got to get to work so your house doesn't catch on fire. So no, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to just let the whole forest burn. I'm not going to call the fire department. Heck with it. People's got to use their brains. And it just seems like we do less and less than that every year that I'm on this planet. People just get dumber. So if you click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about people wanting to come to my area and make me build them a tiny house off grid. So if I can inspire you to think ahead so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.